Hi, bienvenidos. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. So today, as you guys can see from the title, I am doing the eyeshadow palette tag. This was actually requested from a few of you guys as I was going through my comment section while I was out on my hiatus there. This was a tag that was created by Samantha March and Allie Glines. I forget how to say her last name, but they had done this before and now they're revamping it as their 2.0. So I figured, of course, I'm gonna do this. It's all about eyeshadow palettes. Why would I not do this? Hello. So I have my palettes here. I did not refer back to my old video because I did not want to shift my thought process to those palettes because I'm pretty sure if I look at that video and see what palettes I chose, I'm gonna want to pick those palettes again. So I left it alone. I will link that video. So if you're interested in seeing the first part, I will link that in the iCard. So you guys are more than welcome to check that out. So here we're gonna have our, I don't even know how many questions, 12, 15, I can't remember. And I have my palettes in front of me. So if that is something that interests you, stay tuned. But first, if you're new, welcome. My name's Alejandra. I go by Alex. I'm an eyeshadow enthusiast with a Dash Project Pan. If that's something you want to continue to see on your feed, join us, subscribe, and now let's get on with this tag. For those that have noticed, yes, I literally just came back from cutting my hair. I needed a few inches off the bottom. My hair has been on this regrowth thing since 2020. I had a episode where my hair was falling out. I didn't go bald, thank God. But now with Rona happening this year, I don't know, I might go bald again. So I finally have my hair where like it's the same type of thickness. But again, I don't know, in the next 3 months, my hair might be falling out again and I gotta go through this process again. I'm trying to prevent it and trying to prep myself for it now that I know what to do to have my hair grow, but I don't know. But that's, just in case you saw that my hair is shorter, yes, I did chop off, I think 3 inches or so. I needed it bad, very, very bad. All right, so you're here for this tag, you guys. So let's start out with number 1, my all-time favorite palette. Now this was very hard. You guys know that I adore a ton of my palettes. And there was one that was killing me, which I am assuming is what I chose for the first one. I don't remember, but I'm going to choose my Metropolis palette for this one. Now, hear me out on this. The reason why I would choose it as my all-time favorite would be because it is my favorite tones of shades. I love warm tones. If I were to choose cooler warm tones, I would actually go with warm tones, even though I can rock a cool tone eye look like today. But I personally like this, and I love the fact that this has color to it. It's just not neutrals. It's actually neutrals with pops of colors in different ways, where you get in the reds, the orange, the greens, the golds, the browns, everything in between where I can go with it. And I love the formula of this. So I actually would choose this one to be my all-time favorite. If I were to be stuck with one palette, I wouldn't be upset with this palette at all. All right, number 2 is my new favorite palette. This was hard, but this popped in my head right away, so that meant I needed to choose it. And that is the Beauty Bay Wilderness palette. This palette is just always on my mind. I'm shocked that I still have yet to hit pan on it, mainly because it is more of my being sick for the last 2 months, basically. But it's a beautiful palette. A lot of you guys that have purchased it have said the same thing. It's such a well thought out palette, such a nice put together palette. If you love color, if you love different tones, cool and warm tones, it's just such a good palette, and definitely my new favorite. Like, I'm always thinking about this palette. I can't wait till March because I'm definitely going to pull this back out in March because this is like a St. Patrick's Day kind of feel for me. I love this palette. Number 3 is a palette that I keep for the memories, and I still use it. So it's not like I keep it just for memories, but I would have decluttered it if it wasn't for the significance behind it. And for that is the Little Lady palette. Now, you guys, if you're new and you have no clue why it's named this, somebody will let you know down in the description box. But this palette, I still use it till this day. I actually really like the color story, and the formula is not bad at all. But if it wasn't for it being a gift from my daughter, I probably would have decluttered it or even depotted it and put it in a Z palette. But because it was from her, I want to keep it intact and I want to show it more love, but I keep it more for memory reasons than anything because of the significance behind it, but I still use it till this day. It's just, I try not to promote it, even though it's not available anymore. I try not to promote it, but I still use it on camera. I still show it on camera because it is part of my collection. It is part of my everyday routine sometimes. And I'm not going to lie to you and BS you guys if it wasn't, because if I wasn't doing YouTube, I'd still be using it. So I just want to be blunt and upfront with you guys that, yeah, I still use it and I'm not going to declutter it because of its significance. All right, a palette that is underrated. For me, I got to tell you, this is underrated. Even for myself, I wish I would pull this out more, which I am. I am actually going to keep this in my drawer to use it for this month because I feel like this is a perfect month to use this palette. And for me, that's the Sydney Grace Enduring Love palette. I feel like this is a very, very underrated palette. It is a beautiful formula. Love the color story. I got the deeper version, which I feel like I can actually use well without feeling like it's too deep for me. Sometimes I'm always wish-washing back and forth which one to choose, the light or the dark. And for this one, I'm kind of happy I chose the dark version because it's not that dark. I can still rock it, have a light look, or have a darker, deeper look. It's a beautiful palette. I've only myself have dabbled into this a few times, but it's always on the back of my mind to use. And this time of year is where I think about it even more. So this is actually going to stay in my everyday eyeshadow palette drawer to get more use out of it because I really do enjoy this palette. The formula, the well thought out process, the fact that you get a light version and a deeper version for whatever skin tone you want to choose. It's just such a good palette. It's very underrated. I don't hear about it often, even from me, but it should because it really is good. And next up is, it's not a favorite, but I can't get rid of. And that one automatically popped into my head is the Walhalla 2 palette from Juvia's Place. Now, the reason why is because it's mainly more blues than anything. Like half of the palette is more of these blues and silvers. And I am not somebody who uses them often, even though I'm constantly getting compliments whenever I do use blues on my eyes. Seems to work with me. I don't know, but I personally would rather choose another color to use on my eyes. And but I can't bring myself to declutter this one. And I don't know why, but I just can't. I think maybe it's just because it's squares versus circles. It's smaller than their normal palettes. I could still get use out of this half of the palette and enjoy it. I'm not a fan of the glitters in here at all. And you guys know that I'm like in the middle when it comes to glitters. You like them, you like them. You don't, you don't. I'm not going to judge you. I don't care. It's up to you. But personally, for me, the glitters in here were terrible. Absolutely terrible. And I did use some of these and I didn't like them. Besides the glitters, I want to declutter it, part of me, but then the other part doesn't want to. So this is one that I can't get rid of, but I could if I had to. All right, up next is my favorite collab. And this one was difficult, but I didn't want to do repeats in my categories since I have so many palettes. I can do this tag over and over and over hundreds of times. And I didn't want to repeat it. And genuinely, this is the palette that I would choose for this. It was a contender with a different one, but because of the meaning behind it too, I'm going to put it in here. And that's a Tiny Marvels palette. This was a very, very well thought out palette. Formula is amazing. I love the collab. I think Mel did such a wonderful job, and many people have said it. She did a great job with this palette. I can really use this in the spring, in the fall, in the winter time, in the summer, doesn't matter. She just put it well thought. Like it's just all put together so well. I love that this is catered to her and we do have something of her as a memory, as something that she did herself. She put thought and process into it. So I will say that this is my favorite collab. Not just because Mel isn't with us anymore, but because it is a really good palette. It genuinely is so good overall. Like I really, really like this palette. And I'm happy that it's still in circulation and you still can get it. And part of the proceeds do go to her family. Okay, so for 2021, my favorite palette. This was tough because there was a lot of palettes that were my favorite. But again, I didn't want to do repeats. And this was one of my top favorites of 2021. And I got to give it to the Urban Decay Wild West palette. Now, the reason why I'm choosing this as my 2021 favorite is because I'm getting the color, I'm getting the neutrals, but it's neutrals that I love. I love that it's cool tone. I love that it's warm tone. I love that it's a small enough palette to do so many different things, and it's not big and bulky. Like, I can appreciate that. And the formula of this palette, it's so good. I really, really love it. This palette has made me fall in love with Urban Decay's formula all over again. They have just brought it back and even better. Like, it's just so nice. Again, this is a palette where you can do a lot of different things with it and not feel like you need a huge palette. So I think that's why it's my favorite. And the formula and the colors. I just love the colors in it. You guys have seen me use this over and over and over, and you can clearly see that it is used. It's definitely one of my favorites. All right, a palette I didn't expect to love. Now this one I may have showcased in a different video where it fell in the same category. It just is a palette I didn't expect to love as much as I do. And I kind of don't want to buy any more like this just because I love this one so much. And that's the Give Me Glow Pastel Dreams palette. It's just such a pretty palette. It really, really is. And I think part of the reason why I enjoy it, not so much because the formula is amazing. I think the color process that they put together is well thought out. You're getting a matte and a shimmer corresponding with one another, so you can do a monochromatic look if you don't want to do a whole pastel thing. Like, they've thought it out for us, so then I don't have to worry about like, oh, what am I going to pick? But I feel like I love it even more because this does remind me of my youngest kid. She is obsessed with unicorns in the color pink. Like, that's her thing. Since birth, that girl has always asked for that. If you see her wardrobe, you see her bedroom, it is full of unicorns and anything pink and purple. And I think that that's one of the main reasons why I also love this palette, because it reminds me of her. This would be my third kid put in an eyeshadow palette. Like, this is her. It's a beautiful, beautiful palette. Formula is amazing. It's just, if I'm going to choose one pastel palette, it will be this one. This is the one I keep raving about because I really, really do like it. And I'm not a fan of a lot of pastels. I just can't rock them all year long. So there's no point in me buying a bunch of them, but they are beautiful. Okay, so a palette that sparks joy. This is where I put this one in because it really does spark joy to me. I enjoy it. I love it. Every time I think about it, it's so much fun. I can come up with different colors and things. And that's the Club Nebula palette. This just really does spark joy. I really like this. I know that some people may not like the Kaleidos formula, but I think it's really, really nice. I do like it. It's pigmented, but I can still blend it out. It's not patchy for me. Maybe it's my style of doing eyeshadow. I don't know what it is, but it's a beautiful palette. I love the whole aesthetic of it. I love the whole thought process behind it. I like that I can use this almost all year round and not feel like it's just a one concentrated season kind of palette. It's just a beautiful palette. It does. Every time I think about it, it really does bring me joy. It's just such a pretty palette. It really, really is. Okay, so my newest palette in my collection. Now, if I would have done this video before I filmed my Beautylish unbagging, I already had a different palette. But because I did that video, this is my newest palette. That is the Hindash Beautopsy Pressed Pigment Palette. I just got this in my Beautylish Lucky Bag, so this is my newest palette to my collection. I didn't personally purchase it separately, like obviously I bought the mystery box, but I didn't buy it individually, but this is my newest palette. This is what I'm gonna say. I haven't touched it yet because I literally just filmed that yesterday as I'm sitting here, so I have yet to play with it, but I would have had a different palette that I did buy last year for Black Friday, but this one came in, so this is my newest palette to my collection. And last but not least is my first palette I used in 2022. That palette went to the Beauty Bay Book of Magic. I had purchased this last summer and I saved it for the winter time because I wanted to play around with it during the winter time. And you guys, I've done so many looks with this and you guys are constantly complimenting me on my eye look, especially with these blues in here. Awesome. Guys, you know that this is gonna be my favorite shade. Like, this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous shade. Like, I actually wanna put it on right now because I just want to. Ooh, that is so pretty. Cannot help myself. But look how pretty that looks. I love this. I love this shade. So, this is my first palette that I used in 2022. Now, I have used more since then, obviously, but this was my first palette that I grabbed for and reached for in the month of January, the first week of January. I was rocking this palette. It's a beautiful, beautiful palette. I know it's no longer available. I didn't buy the Opulence one because it's so similar to this one, but if you wanted something similar, the Opulence is very close to it. All right, guys, that is it. How did I do? If you guys did watch my first video before you watch this one, or what did I do? Did I do any repeats? I don't think I did any repeats. I'm scared to see my first video because I'm going to be like, oh, I should have said that one. Oh, I already know myself, so I try to avoid it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I will link the two ladies down below that created this tag, and anyone else that I have seen do this tag will be linked down below. Thank you guys again for all of your support. I'll put more videos on the screen for your enjoyment. Until then, adios.